Hi you guys, so I had just made a video completely edited that I was going to post up tomorrow about Tropical Storm Debby. I thought we were out of it, so I showed you my whole garden, and now today it's Friday night and this is the storm that just keeps on giving. It's thundering, it's lightning, and it just poured like crazy. My front yard is completely flooded. We are one with the flooded road up there all the way into my peninsula garden. So I'm just adding this little bit in the front as the lightning is booming and blaring over there. Adding this little bit in the front so I can show you this footage of what we're dealing with right now. And then maybe I'll have to do another walkthrough tomorrow, and that's gonna have to be a totally separate video. So I was cheerful in my last video because I thought everything was just perfect. And now today I'm just feeling a little emotional. So today is Wednesday morning. Tropical Storm Debby is coming here today and tomorrow. And the trouble with the storm is that it is just like kind of stalling out over the Carolinas and just dropping rain. Now our pool is already full from the rain we got yesterday that was just a bit ahead of the storm. So we're gonna see what happens, and hopefully we do not have to worry about flooding, because that's the biggest concern. Not even wind, but the flooding. Guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. I garden in Zone 8B in southeastern North Carolina. It has been a really wacky few days with all the weather that we've been getting. And not just because of the tropical storm that came through, while that's part of it, but we've been getting our weather in like bands where a severe amount of rain or wind is gonna like rock our world for a temporary amount of time. Then everything goes away and we're back to nothing, and the sun pops out, and then the rain comes back again. I actually watched the news and they said we are out of our drought. We are now in a surplus because the amount of water we just keep getting is crazy. I'm filming this. I want to take a walk around the garden and see how things are holding up to all of this water that we've been getting, see what the heck is happening. Remember, in just like last month and before that, we went through a period of severe drought when we were getting no rain at all. So now my plants are experiencing the opposite. One thing I wanted to talk about is hurricane season. So those of us on the East Coast and in the South, so the southern coast of our country, have to deal with hurricanes. And it's only for a number of months each year. And I'm starting to get pretty wet. I'm trying to keep the camera protected. I gotta move. So one of the things I did want to talk about is hurricane season. So of course, if you live on the East Coast or the southern coast of our country, like Texas, and oh my gosh, so many of our southern friends that have to deal with our extreme weather in the summer as compared to people who are up in the north who deal with winter storms, this is what we get. So here in my area, so we're kind of called the Cape Fear region. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. Our more typical time to see storms is going to be August into September. So even though hurricane season is longer than that, that's typically when we're going to see storms come our way. One of the things we were told for this year is it could be a more active than normal hurricane season because the ocean is so warm, and when storms start churning up in the ocean, they gain strength from that warm water. So I hope that is not the case. I do want to say though, as we take a look around shortly, maybe after the rain slows down a bit, is this storm was not terrible for me, at least personally. I cannot speak for the whole Wilmington area, and I know so many other people ended up with major flooding. Anyway, my main point about hurricane season is to say that, did you know that the only difference between a tropical storm, which this all is part of, and a hurricane is wind speed. That's it. That's the main difference between those two things. The reason why I want to point that out is because a tropical storm can still be devastating to people. Just because you're not getting the high winds that cause that kind of damage, the flooding and the amount of rainwater you can get can be just as damaging. It can still take trees down and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, if the rain's going to settle down a little bit, we're going to walk around the garden and kind of see what types of things have happened in this last handful of days. As the rain ebbs and flows, this drainage swale ends up sometimes looking like a moat. Oh my gosh, I gotta protect the camera again. So basically what you see happening with the rain coming on unexpectedly is what we've been dealing with for days. You look at the forecast on your phone, okay, great, I have this bit of time where it's not gonna rain, and then this comes out of nowhere. So again, remnants of the tropical storm, but I digress. What I was getting at was talking about the drainage ditches or the swales around our houses. That is common here in the area that I live in, and the reason is our properties are all sloped so that can be water collection areas there, and then those swales are actually leading the water out to the Intracoastal Waterway and the ocean. So that's just how it's done around here, and if my swales end up filling up with the rainwater, it's fine. That part does not scare me at all. The moment that the rain starts to slow down, you'll notice the water just flowing right the heck out of here. So that's been really good to see that the swales are working. It's also really good we're out of a drought now. But while I'm standing here talking, and I had mentioned about hurricane season before, and then the difference between a hurricane and a tropical storm, something I wanted to mention in the past, Hurricane Florence, that was a storm that wrecked the Wilmington area. I think that was in 2018 or 19. See, I can't even remember now. But something similar happened to what is happening with this tropical storm, where the storm just sits over your area, barely moving, and just drops tons and tons of rainwater. That's what happened with that hurricane. As I said, wrecked so much of our area. School was closed for a long time, etc. This storm is very similar. So it was supposed to kind of hit Charleston and the South Carolina coast and then kind of skirt up our way, but all very slowly. So I don't think we're going to get to walking around the garden right now. I'll wait a little bit, otherwise I'm going to have to try this again tomorrow. Okay, so let's try this again. Same day, different outfit. I do not match because I'm not sure if it's going to rain on me again, but now the sun's peeking out. So here's my entrance to my greenhouse that at one time looked very gorgeous, and I mean way before this week. As you can see, we have a lot of standing water everywhere, particularly down here, and it's pooling inside the greenhouse as well. So I'm gonna have to regrade that out. My banana trees, let's get a different angle of the banana trees because we'll check out what is going on with those babies. So my gorgeous bananas. We talked recently and said that the banana trees do end up getting like shredded leaves on them when they are faced with heavy winds. And that is definitely what has happened here. So you can see how these beautiful fronds now, whatever, look like they have lots of slices in the leaves. Probably what's going to happen is it'll take maybe a week or two. All of these fronds are going to end up turning yellow and brown. So I'm going to have to clip them off, and we're just going to have to wait for these trees to grow the new fronds. The good news is this is not entirely devastating because these trees grow their new fronds like very quickly when they're in their active growing season. So I'm going to see new ones shoot out, and it'll be fine. I cannot complain. I'm not going to say that that's damage. So let's see what else we can find. Well, I can see that my huge canna lily pot has blown over. Now, this was not the first time it's happened, so it's not really unexpected either. When the cannas get so big, they actually get quite heavy as well. Ugh. This whole pot is heavy. Well, a little bit wet. That's not too bad. All right, so let's take a walk down the boardwalk. I can see some of my elephant ears have tears in them just from hitting up against other things, I guess. But I am going to turn the camera around so we can take a look together and see what else we have going on down the secret garden. Generally, things look pretty good. Let's start getting up close to some items. So here's the banana leaves that I was just talking about. So I see some tears in a bunch of the leaves just from getting twisted around. Well, like that and worse, I guess. The caladiums have done pretty well though. They look like they're pretty well tucked in underneath the banana trees. It's interesting to see what holds its flowers really well, even in a strong breeze. The oleander held up very nicely, which is cool. A lot of my cannas maybe were losing their flower petals anyway, so I don't even really think that this is too surprising, seeing a bunch of the empty branches, I guess, if you will. Yikes. All right, let's squeak through here. Now, my Rose of Sharon looks pretty wonky. It's leaning forward quite a bit, so I'm going to end up having to stake this guy up and stake those branches up so they're a little bit more secure. He looks way all over the place. But these caladiums also look really good. So if they were getting blown around and tossed around, they're really not showing evidence of it. So that's great. And these things all look pretty good too. All right, let's keep journeying on. Coming to these cannas, this has nothing to do with the storm. This has to do with another kind of damage. I put a video out on Instagram to show this. So my cannas are being eaten. And I was showing you exactly what the disgusting culprit is, and he may be tucked right in here because that's where I've been finding them. And it's going to be a disgusting little worm caterpillar guy. If I can do it with one hand, let's see, because I don't really want to touch it. No, he's not even inside of that one. Oh, but I think there might be one inside of here. Let's see. Gross, gross, gross. Ugh. And I dropped him right onto this leaf, so now you can see exactly what he looks like. Yeah, these guys have got to go. I don't want no one messing with my canna lilies. So while the bananas are being like tossed around quite brutally, the The cordy line's still looking really good and electric. And look how good the Purple Heart still is. It's like seemingly untouched. Let's go around the other side, the pool side, and see if that's still true over here. Yeah, the Purple Heart just looks absolutely perfect. Some flower petals and a bit of standing water from our crepe myrtle here, but nothing bad at all. How could I complain? All right, we got another pot down. I almost wonder if I should be picking these things up or if they're going to go down again. This is another heavy one, and it is a tropical hibiscus. Which I thought would be decently protected, being right along the fence line. And his drip irrigation tube stayed in there though, so that's good. And of course, look how lovely the begonias are. Barely any petals blown away. So we are gonna go outside my fence here. This is where my Island of Misfit Toys is, so I can already see movement of water. Makes you think I installed a water feature here. Let me grab the camera and show you what's happening out there. All right, so this is my Island of Misfit Toys that goes along the whole fence line there. This is my drainage swale, which is obviously not usually this full. And then of course my erosion problem, which is the whole reason why I created the Island of Misfit Toys. So when we have our swale this full, what's happening is it's heading in this direction to a larger area, and what it's going to do is shoot off in a pipe that goes under the street right here, and when we head in this direction where the water needs to flow to, that is the ocean. So I don't ever come back here for garden tours or anything, but these are my cattails because this is still my property in the middle of this drainage swale. So these are my cattails, and then heading in this direction here where all that other growth is across the street, that's where the water is going to flow. Well, it is flowing. I have to say, I am so incredibly thankful that our drainage swales work. This is exactly what is meant to happen. The water is meant to flow this direction and head out to sea. So I know it was just a couple of days ago when we were doing a little tour to see how things were and how they were doing keeping up with heat stress and whatnot. We were talking about these hostas and how they were looking burnt, even though we kind of were under the impression that they were going to be okay and healthy out here because they were near this water source. But as we said, in a period of drought, there is no water source, and so the hostas were not able to take the amount of sun that was here. And then my canna lily row, whatever. All stuff we've talked about before. But this upcoming is my peninsula garden, so let's see how that is. So I think all things considered, you guys, we're in pretty good shape. The swales are full and that looks kind of scary at times, but again, if they're flowing properly, then I can't be like afraid of it. They're working, so that's good. The gardens look pretty good. I have some runaway mulch. Maybe I have some wind on my microphone. Some runaway mulch. Still, nothing overly bad. I can't complain at all. Largely, nothing's really broken, so I had a few pots over, but that's okay. I'm gonna look up in the front flower beds too, like the ones closest to the porch, see what's going on up there. But I mean, really, so far so good. Here's something I wanted to share actually. Since we're plant people, I think you'll get a chuckle out of it just as I did. So this flower arrangement with the sweet potato vine was sitting on a bench right here. Now I didn't move all of my potted plants inside, as you can see in other areas, because it wasn't going to be hurricane level wind. Sorry, my mind is very scattered. So I didn't think I had to move in everything. So I didn't. But like this guy, I was taking off of the bench that was sitting here and I was just moving it up to the front porch for a little bit of protection. Well, the length on the sweet potato vine was so long and I felt it snagging on something underneath the bench and I wasn't sure what it was. It turns out the sweet potato vine is rooting in the ground. So where it was draping down, it started to root and it really grabbed hold, so much so that I went to lift up the pot and this part was like, no, I am not coming. So I clipped it off and now I'm hoping that this is gonna grow. And of course that made me say, well now I want to root this in multiple pots or places, because I love this one so much with the green leaves that have the edges in purple. So surely I'm going to be propagating my sweet potato vine because of this moment. So really, all things considered, you guys, I feel so lucky. Like something as sweet and delicate as this is standing up. The leaves aren't ripped. It looks perfect. My begonias lost a few petals, but I mean, for as long as these stems are, still stayed looking great. I feel super good, thankful, and I pray for all the people that were in the path of this storm that were not as lucky, that are dealing with floods. Oh man, hurricane season stinks. And I look forward to being out of it in maybe another month and a half. And of course, here comes the rain, but that's okay because we're done now. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey. I appreciate everybody's support and the well wishes that I got, where people were just saying stay safe and be well. Made me feel so awesome. And I wish the same thing for any of you that get in the path of storms like this. This is done. Let's close this chapter for now. And hopefully we don't need to talk about it again for the rest of this time. All right, I'm sorry. My thoughts are still jumbled and I can't seem to close my own segment, but thank you for watching, and until next time, happy planting.